Hello, beautiful stars. Good to be with you. I'm Courtney, the host of Stars of the Morning Light. Thank you, everybody, for being in the chat and talking amongst each other. That's lovely, you beautiful stars. Tonight, we have Kristen Joy from Voluptuous Light, which I love that name, everyone. Voluptuous Light. We like titles like that here, don't we? So, Miss Kristen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yes. So everybody here knows that when I first interview somebody, well, the first time they interview, if I can get my words right, I ask all of them, what is your personal definition of awakening?
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to give you a smidge of context before I go into my very loose, evolving definition. And the reason for that is, as you know, it's hard to get people on the same page in terms of like how we think and understanding concepts. So I just wanted to give a little bit of kind of insight as to where my definition is coming from. Okay. So to me, what my belief is that we are all divine souls. So we all are from source. So because we are from source, we all are source, right? So this is the truth of who we are. However, when we come into the human form, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, we experience what it's like to be human, which is a lot of times a little bit of forgetting of the truth of who we are and the truth of like the universal truths, the bigger truths, because we experience life through our five senses, right? And also the mind. And the mind will also tell us things that aren't necessarily true, like all the stories that, we live in. So we're clouded, I think, from the truth of who we are. So to me, awakening comes in stages, and the first of the stages could look like you're just starting to become aware that there's something bigger, that there's more truth, that there's messages coming in from the outside, that the animals have something to say. You're starting to become aware that some of the ways we've been taught by society, modern society, aren't necessarily full truth and all-encompassing. So stage one of awakening, you're starting to notice. Maybe the next stage is you're starting to like believe a little bit. You're starting to realize like, this feels right. This feels like there's been something missing and now it's making sense. And then I think the more you progress into the awakening phase, then you have the possibility of becoming a master. So now you're like mastering your gifts and you're mastering the power of the five elements. And you're really stepping back into the truth of who you are and this wild world that we live in.
Okay, so I think, so I know that all of my audience just went, ooh, Courtney, love that answer. Because I do. I love that answer. It's interesting. I love how you said, Steph, I think you're the first person that brought up belief. Like, period. I think you're the first person I've interviewed that put that step, as you put it, you called it a step, into the mix of awakening. And that's lovely, because you can't become a master unless you believe at some point, and I think that gets lost. Like, just even it might be because the awareness that you're talking about ends up maybe pushing them away from constructs of belief or having belief, because it's what we believed in so wholeheartedly is what gets broken down. Mm-hmm. So that go to trust belief or have belief. But guys, you hear it, she said it, and I believe it. I do. You got to have belief. Well, okay, so now we need, actually, because I know my audience tracked with all of that. At least the stars here. If you're new to the channel or you're just listening, hit that like button, subscribe, because if you want more stuff like that, hang out with us. Um, can you tell us a bit of your journey then, Kristen? Because I don't know if anybody put those three together like that, or even there's nobody that's ever talked about master. There's no, with that question, I can guarantee that. I know that. So what's your, how did, I guess can I tell the audience, uh, you don't have to go deep into it, but you were an actress and you kind of still are. And I do want to say, Miss Kristen, that us on the outside of Hollywood, um, we don't know, like, that is so foreign to us that it's like, it seems like a whole nother world. It seems that, are they human? Like so coming from that, folks, into being able to say belief in master is God, has to be a journey, my dear. So will you give us a little bit of it?
Absolutely. Yes. Where to even start? Let's see what comes out, right? So I think that most of my life has been me trying to figure out who I really am, because I was raised by two wonderful parents who had an idea, I think, of what they thought parenting was and what like a healthy, happy child would be. Like, I think they did their best to set all of us up, right? But there was something about me that didn't fall in line with a lot of, I guess, the norms, So I used to like really hit heads with my dad, like when I was like a teenager, which I think can be somewhat normal, right? Like, the terrible teens kind of thing. But I think that during those times, it can often like stunt our growth as strong female teenagers. I'm sure for men as well, but I'm only speaking from my own experience, that I had a lot of, I don't know if it's wisdom, but I just had a way that I wanted to be and things I wanted to do and the way that I wanted to show up. And the rules had to make sense for me to be able to fall in line, right? So just like an easy example, my dad didn't want me to get phone calls after 9 o'clock, which, God bless him, today I turn off all of my devices at 9 p.m. And this is the first time I'm making that connection. So I see you, Dad, and I see you seeing me. But 9 o'clock when you're a teenager, it's like all the other kids could get calls up until like 10 or whatever it was. And it was like embarrassing and like, it just was so uncomfortable for me that like people would call the house and my dad would be like, it's too late, And I just didn't understand why. And I would say to him, but why? I was like a straight A student. I was a really good kid, but why? And his answer was, oh, I hate this answer because I said so. And if you're like an strong, independent person, like that answer is really, for me, was very like jarring, like, because it's not an answer, right? And so I think that having those struggles and like really trying to figure out like who am I and how do I have a right to show up in the world, like as a daughter, but also as someone who's growing older and I'm going to be on my own. Like, what do I need to be able to step into like my truth and my power? So I ended up going to college in California. I grew up in New Jersey, and we had spent a lot of time in California on family vacation. So I knew that I loved it. But I also knew that it was very far away. So, my mom today is like, wow, it was so amazing that you went so far away. And I'm like, why do you think? Like, I just wanted to feel like I was like, I can make all of my own decisions. I'm on the other side of the country, doing what I want to do, making all the mistakes I want to make. So I think the fact that I took that big step really like opened my life and opened my awareness and gave me a lot of freedom to then start questioning things, exploring more things, which is why I then have been on this like kind of path that has taken me all over the place. But really it's a journey to figuring out who I am and what I want to do in the world, or what I'm supposed to do in the world also.
So Kristen, I know, so you did do some acting and you still do that here and there. But I know that you also, so in California, you're in California, and this is what I meant about like that whole, it's like California is its own thing. And I have some beautiful stars here that are in California, and they know they're their own thing, you know. Where did it lead? Because I know at some point you studied in India under a master. So I mean, you see it on TV, you hear about it, you hear about kind of the evolution of people, or you know, how they evolve, especially out there. But to us, like Midwest folks, other areas, we're just like, so you met a guru and then you just happen to go to India? Like how does this really happen to people?
Yeah, I'm happy to share the actual like practical things that happened. I guess to fill in the gap very briefly, California, I was pre-med in college, thought I wanted to be a doctor, decided that was not the route I wanted to go. It was a little too band-aidy for my liking. I wanted to be more of a root cause kind of holistic healer. So fell into acting because I was living after Santa Barbara, I was living in LA. And it was like, what am I going to do now? I have this degree, but I'm not going to be a doctor. So what do I do? And then I ended up falling into acting and had, parts here and there. And yes, it's still part of my life right now, just because it's fun. And I'm trying to figure out, universe, what are you doing with me? But so I end up moving back to the East Coast after a big chunk of time in California. And long story short, I end up in a relationship that was very unhealthy. So it was super quick, but super deep and super traumatic. And I think it basically cracked me open to the healing that I needed, which ended up being, in practical sense, I went back to a job because I was like, I'm single now and I'm living in New York City and it's really expensive and this was a good paying job. So I went back to a job that wasn't really the healthiest work environment, but I met a woman who was hired to be my assistant, who heard my story, this heartbreak, crazy lifetime movie kind of drama that I went through. And she said, there's a process you can do that involves healing your womb chakra, and it will shift everything for you. And I had never meditated before, and I don't even know where I stood in terms of spirituality. I was raised Catholic, meaning I went through the sacraments and I went to Catholic high school because it was the better high school, not because Jesus,
Yeah.
So she said, if you're willing to try this process. And I was like, yes. And I went from never meditating before to meditating, I think it was an hour and a half a day for 3 months. And the shift was, nothing short of miraculous. Like all of these amazing things started happening in my life. And at that point, this woman was like, clearly you're involved in these teachings in a deeper way. Come to India, meet the, spiritual master who shares these teachings. And there we go.
Wow. Okay. And you said your womb chakra. A lot of people refer to it as the root. So everybody know that for us women,
the sacral chakra.
Okay. Oh, the sacral chakra.
Yes.
Okay. The sacral. Okay. So in Reiki, that's called your hara. Yeah. I call it my little engine that could. So
I love that.
Well, I also call that entire area my undercarriage. So it's been traveling with me that long, I can. So
cheers to that.
Yeah. Okay, so your sacral chakra. Okay. So was the practice, I'm sure, was clearing that out, but then deep meditation. I want to say, folks out there listening, if you're just now entering into meditation, which is beautiful, wonderful, please do it. You don't have to do it for an hour and a half. So clearly, like the woman said, you were already somehow connected from previous lives or energy, whatever it was, clearly with this practice. So you get to India, which is probably profound in itself, to, you know, visit, see, stay, is that's pretty profound just in that aspect. How did that work for you? So you were with the master for a while, or at least the people?
Yes. So my master, I hesitate to call him guru, but I always call him guru, but then it's like, it's gotten such a bad connotation.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? But so he had been teaching and practicing for a good number of years with only a handful of students. And he was beginning to become known in the community because he was able to work miracles, but also because he was also like just an amazing gentleman who was like helping his, you know, his community, building schools and hospitals and things like that. So word started being spread about this man's abilities. And he was told at some point that his dharma was about teaching the American students. So there was a bit of a draw for people to come from the States. So when I started studying with him, there were already a few hundred people who would gather for like the high holy days in India. So maybe like Shivaratri or Guru Purnima. So I would come a couple times a year to come to these programs, live on the ashram, study the teachings, go through these amazing processes, come back, reintegrate into, you know, my normal life. So it would be back and forth to India for a good number of years, a few times a year.
Okay, okay. That's still, ladies and gentlemen, I know, so kind of my teachers, they did that too. They're kind of on some other stuff now, but they were doing that in the, like the 90s. So I'm aware of what you're talking about, and not, oh, ladies and gentlemen, you beautiful stars, not all of them are bad. You know, there's so much emphasis on the bad ones that it's like, not all of them are corrupt. So what exactly did you get out of it? So you're, I guess, because I don't want to jump into voluptuous life just yet, because we're probably not there yet. You're learning these things, you're connecting. When did you decide to kind of go further with it, to really integrate it more into, because you said I came back to my normal life, quote unquote, which is what we all experience, right?
Mhm.
But now I know you, so I know you've integrated it. You see what I'm saying? What was that kind of process like?
That is an ongoing process, actually, because there are the teachings that came through that were taught from my guru are ancient Vedic teachings. So these are not his teachings, right? And his desire was to create masters, not students. So he was not like, I'm the master. He's like, here's the information so you can go out, be a master, teach other people to be masters. Let's share this information and heal the planet, right? So the teachings are very specific. So the reason why I was meditating as long as I did with this particular system is because there are very specific mantras that you chant for very specific amounts of time. You draw something that's like sacred geometry that are called yantras. You have to follow a specific, it's called diksha, like the rules. Dietary and timings of the moon all come into play. So they're very specific. And in order to be in integrity with them, you're not really supposed to be like, well, I also want to teach like longevity. So I'm going to like take part of what you teach here and I'm going to mesh it in with this other thing that I learned. So for me, I want to do the teachings justice, and I want to do healings for people, and I want to connect people to that part. And then I also want to serve the pieces that I have learned on my own through my studies and, studying longevity and epigenetics and all those kinds of sciences. I want to find a way to integrate both of them, but maintaining the authenticity.
Right. Do you feel to some of the integration too of learning this stuff, because you did have a medical degree, you're now looking at like what you might have learned way back when with new eyes of, kind of applying it to even that stuff?
I think it's very helpful. I trust myself. I think I trust like my intuition and my inner knowing, especially as I'm getting older. But I think that the fact that I had this background, that I do understand in a way how the mind works and how the body works, because I was, trained to some degree in those fields. So I think that for me, it makes sense and it comes together in a way that I feel confident speaking to, because I feel like I understand it.
Okay, excellent. So could you maybe, you don't have to share a lot, but could we have a couple of little nuggets of what those ancient teachings are? Just a couple of little things, because that's what I mainly do here. So that's my fun of what some of the concepts are.
Yeah, absolutely. So we already touched on the womb chakra system, and it's one of the most powerful systems. And I think what really won me over with my guru and with the teachings is that one of the first times that I had come to the ashram, he made it very clear that it was his understanding and that it was in the ancient Vedic teachings that women are more powerful than men. And when he said this, I was like, what? No one is like complaining that he just said this. Like, I just like saw there's like a handful of men. There's always a handful of men at these spiritual retreats. It's like primarily women. And then there's like, oh, I see you, dude. I was like, he just said that. And like, they're okay with the fact that he just said that. And I just like remember getting chills that I was like, whoa, this is amazing that this is like real knowledge that is not mainstream information. So I was like, I need to understand more about this. And so the concept is that men and women have energetic womb chakras, but women have a physical womb chakra. So it is obviously like our creative force. Whether we use it to birth like a human is another thing. It's a creative force for everything coming through us. So what he had said was, living in this world, our womb chakras they take hits. So it's challenging to have a physical womb in this world. We know all of the challenges. We know many of the challenges that women face, right, in this modern society. Our womb chakras are taking energetic hits, which make us sick, which keep us out of our power, which just, we're not stepping into the truth of who we are. So this womb chakra system is about healing that particular part of our body and our energetic field that will then help everything else to heal and align.
Yes, and I fully agree with that. I like how you brought up how it is the chakra of creation for both men and women. And I think with the line of women are more powerful than men, it's in that aspect, definitely, because we hold more of the creation within us. It's energetically, it's there. And so when you're talking about that, all of creation, I mean, it's how you said at the beginning, we're from source, so we are source. That's the creation of source. And it just, women holds it, we just have a bit more of it, and I believe that. So you're able to heal that, because once that's healed, then a lot of those limited beliefs or preventing us from doing what we want to do as far as creating would spring life. So I'm cool with that ancient text. I'm good with it. That works for me. what, is there one more? Because I would love to hear one more. Do we have one more ancient idea?
Let's see. So this one might be a little controversial, but it's speaking to me. I only say it's controversial because I believe people should do whatever feels right to them and connect to their truth and make decisions from there. But this is touchy because it has to do with the energetics of the food that we're ingesting. So I will just say that when we're in these deep processes, there are very specific dietary guidelines that you have to follow. But the ancient texts that I've been exposed to through this guru talk about the karma that you take on when you're eating an animal. So that said, the guru will say, if you need protein, have fish. You know, if you need protein, have chicken. Like there's a hierarchy of like the animals that I think are safer, more aligned to be partaking, you know, ingesting, because they say that you're taking on the karma of the animal that you're eating. So
Yeah.
just to have some respect around that, again, not to change people's, you know, ways of eating or making them question what feels right or comfortable to them, but to have some awareness around maybe there is some karma that I'm taking on because this was a life, and to have a little bit of reverence or just clarity around that.
Yes, yes. And I believe a lot of the stars here too, regardless if they're vegetarian or eat meat, I think we all understand that. I mean, it's evident. It's definitely within our bodies, you know. I so I still eat meat. But what year was that? It was, I think 2019 or so. 2018. I don't know, somewhere before the whole charades started happening. I had such a push to want to become vegetarian, but it was kind of difficult to balance how to do that in my household, right? But regardless, then it's like, okay, like you said, okay, just more chicken and fish and how this and maybe get it that way. And I also, as a Reiki master, I can do Reiki over it.
Mhm.
They taught me to do that. So all of those, I personally, I agree with what she's saying. You might just want to think about it because it all is energy. All is energy. Kristen, so where did voluptuous life come into play? Because I'm thinking you're all about when you were talking there, I'm like, yeah, I get the the vegetarian and energy and the poor animals. But as you're talking, I was thinking, oh, it just clicked with me, sweetheart, like voluptuous life, the womb chakra, all this stuff. I was like, oh, the whole concept of who you are kind of just started clicking with me. So when did voluptuous life come into play, and what is that all about?
Let's just say it's one of the hardest words to pronounce and spell, and also it's a marketing nightmare because you really don't want to just type voluptuous into Google.
Oh,
And
I'd never thought of that, but yeah.
yeah. So, you know, it's maybe not the best title in terms of all of those things, but I loved it. Like, I don't even know where it came from, except that once the idea was sort of, you know, dropped in from somewhere, I looked up the definition of voluptuous, and it really means gratification through the senses. So I thought, well, isn't that beautiful? Because I do believe the way that I live and the way I want my clients to live is like really connected to this beautiful, alive experience of being a human, but also connecting to that sixth sense, which is the inner knowing and the connection to that we are source. So this was my way of being like, okay, voluptuous, 5 senses, but there's a 6th sense. So here we are integrating, you know, the normal human experience and elevated normal human experience and combining it with the divine force that we are. And I really just wanted to do originally like events. Like I just love getting people together in a beautiful setting with beautiful energy and just teaching and sharing and learning and growing. And that was my idea. It's going to be these big events. And I did do a bunch of events before the pandemic. And then, everything sort of shifted. And so now I do a lot more one-on-one coaching to try to guide women into voluptuous, the fullness of who we are, the fullness of our lives. My hashtag was always for like helping women be full of themselves, right? Like it's not an ego thing. It's being full of everything that we are, knowing that we are enough, but knowing that we can support each other and remembering that. So that was the big vision. And now I'm trying to see where I'm taken with that. Sometimes it's events, sometimes it's one-on-one energy work, sometimes it's helping women step into their power because of like letting go of some limiting beliefs. Sometimes it's shifting your diet, sometimes it's more time in nature. It's like all of these things,
I love that. And I thank you for giving the definition. I love it when people give definitions, because I bet you a lot of people didn't know the definition of voluptuous.
Yeah, they're like, it means big boobs, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does that too. Full of life. Kristen, so everybody knows the reason we're talking with Kristen now is she is going to be at the New Earth Energy Market in Ringgold, Georgia, April 29th. It's going to be a great time. It's really going to be an amazing time this time around, Kristen, with the bands included, everything. There's a lot going on. And I'll put all that stuff below in the description, folks. So check it out on at least Facebook or my Instagram somewhere. These events, because I know you're going to be a busy lady this season. What do you have lined up? So do you do speaking events? Do you like retreats? It must be a whole mix of stuff.
It is a whole mix of stuff. It really is a little bit of everything. Sometimes I team up with people when I find a good match, like a yoga instructor or someone who does breath work. I like to team up and kind of join forces because, it's a beautiful experience to be able to have these things complement each other. And also, like, I spend so much time teaching and sharing these teachings that I don't get a lot of education for myself and experiences for myself. So it really is nice to be like, ooh, the breathwork part, I could just sit back and breathe and experience. So yeah, it'll be teaming up with some people. It will be reconnecting with clients on the West Coast and doing one-on-one sessions with them. I started using an energy frequency device, which at your event, I'm going to run scans on people. It's a really cool, speaking to everything is energy, basically runs scans on you, and then it tells you which frequencies are most resonant. And then it can feed these frequencies back to you through microcurrents or even like quantum entanglement, if you're into all that craziness.
Oh, my husband's gonna love that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. What you said, longevity. What do you mean by that? Like, what do you do with longevity? I'm curious.
Yeah. So although things are changing, unfortunately, we live longer than we used to back in the day. A lot of times we're not living well into our older years, right? For me, like, I want to be hiking when I'm in my 80s. I want to be feeling good. I don't want to be, of course, there's going to be some limitations to my body, but I don't want to have those standard American diseases. And I don't believe we have to. And I believe science speaks to the fact that we don't have to. So a lot of the practices that I follow and that I teach are really just about keeping your body aligned with like youthfulness, in the sense that like you're creating new healthy cells, you're detoxing what's not serving you, you're killing off the cells that are harmful or sick within your body so that you are constantly in a state of renewal, so that you are living well into your later years.
My teachers that I mentioned that studied a lot of what you did, they're actually reverse aging right now. It's an amazing thing to watch, that they look better now in their 60s. And I mean like later 60s. I think he's like 68. He's looking better now than he did in his 40s.
Yeah.
It's amazing what these people are doing. So I understand, I think a lot of people, I think that is one of our limited beliefs. That
Yes.
it's, when we get old, we're just going to fall apart or whatever. I don't know what it is but I think it is a
Yeah.
limited, it
Oh,
is.
I agree. And it's part of the reason why I always hesitate with giving people advice. And I tell people, like, be careful who you take advice from, because someone can say to you, or 10 people can say to you, well, my experience, like when I turned 50 or when I went through menopause, was that like I was tired and overweight. So sometimes, yes, that happens because our hormones are changing, but also it doesn't have to happen. But if I hear from everybody that this is what's happening, I believe that this is the norm, and normal isn't really what has to be. It's just what keeps happening because people are not shifting their, what they're eating or how they're moving or all of those things. So I think that we have the ability beyond what we're being shown by modern society about how we can look and how we can feel and how we can move throughout our lives.
Well, that goes into being that master that you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, owning who you are, who you really are, that part of source that you are. I mean, I'm sure source is not sitting on the couch and feeling crappy. I mean, I'm sure we're the same being, that we can do whatever we want. Yeah, that's wonderful. I want to tell you too, Kristen, because I know you are vegetarian. At this event, my dear, Upright Juices also sells vegan empanadas.
Oh,
All vegan Upright Juice. So for those who are listening and also are going to be attending the event, New Earth Energy Market on April 29th, you could try out an empanada and get some juice and then talk to Kristen and be like, now how's my energy? So, I mean, try it out. I think that's what it is. It's these limited beliefs of, oh, well, this is the norm. This is how this is. And a little bit of fear around, I don't know, does vegan food have flavor? You know what I mean? Like all these little things that if we just take one little step, it could crack us open, as you said. So there will be food also there for people to try.
nice.
And
I love that. Yay.
So you're kind of right now, you're just allowing the process to unfold before you a bit as to what voluptuous life is going to be full of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have some general ideas. I'm going to continue to do the things I've been doing, but I'm also willing to see what wants to come in and also what wants to drop off. I don't want to be in a state ever of like, the fear state of like, oh no, I need to do this and I need to make this and I need to like, what does this look like? And all of that. I want to be in flow where it feels like I'm doing what I need to do on the back end to prepare myself for whatever light and inspiration comes in that I'm supposed to reflect back out.
Yes, excellent. Oh, light reflecting light. My stars here know all about that. I was just gonna, so ladies and gentlemen, you beautiful stars, you lovely beings. I know for a fact that Kristen here is in silence every Thursday. Can you tell us a bit as to why and the how and all of it, Kristen?
Yeah. Yes. And I love that you're mentioning this because I'm about to up the ante. It's actually, we're changing it up a little bit. So how did it originally come into play? So Thursdays are considered Guru Day. So it's really the day to like honor your teachers and masters. So that's specifically why I picked Thursday. So originally I was like, I'm going to read a lot of the teachings. I'm going to sit in silence. I'm going to spend more time in nature. Because I mean, I love all of these things. Like, I think we live in a world where we're looking outside for all of the information, and it's too much information, and it's misinformation, and it's incomplete information. So I love that just there's at least one day where it's like no one can just in my ear, you know, whether it be like my partner or like Instagram or anything. You know, I am very particular on that day what sounds I'm allowing in. So it really is to start listening to the inner wisdom and the magic on the outside. So what I'm doing, what I've decided to start doing though, is I'm going to do a fast, just the full day. So I usually practice intermittent fasting, so I don't have something until like later into the morning. But now I want to do the full day once a week of nothing but water.
That's going to be great. No, go for it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely going to do it. I think it's time to like, I like to keep challenging myself to take things to the next level. It's, you know, supposed to just help you kill off more cells that aren't like, don't need to be part of your next phase in life. So I'm all about seeing what that does for my body and for my mental clarity.
For all of it, your spiritual, your mental, your physical, definitely. I love that. So I have to say, people here might not know this. I used to actually, my day of silence was Tuesday, but this was so like pre-marriage. Like that's how long ago. And so when I first learned, Kristen, you inspired me is what I'm trying to get to, because I know, okay, I don't text Kristen on Thursdays. I don't do that. You know, she's doing her thing. And every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, you need to get your Tuesdays back, Courtney. You've been married long enough. Like, you two don't have to communicate. Trust me, we don't. We go many days not communicating. I need to do it for me. So I will say, if you're going to jump into fasting, I will take Tuesday then to start my day of silence again.
I love it.
If you're challenging yourself, I'll challenge myself, because it's been at least like 15 years.
Oh, amazing.
I did it every Tuesday for, oh my goodness. I mean, I was on my 6th or 7th year of it. And then, you know, you move in with somebody and life changes, and it's a faded memory of, is that ever going to happen again in life? So if you don't mind, I'm going to piggyback then off of you challenging yourself, and I'm just going to start with the day of silence. So all you beautiful stars out there, so you know, I'm quiet on Tuesdays starting probably after the event. You know, can you talk a bit about that too? Because clearly you have a gift of meditation. Clearly that's one of your gifts. So not just having the right and the choice as to what sounds you bring in, how does having a day like that influence your other days of taking time to meditate, maybe at a longer interval because it's that day? Or even if people can do this, you know, Sunday afternoons or something, you know, this is my 4-hour gap of silence. How does that benefit someone's life in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. Lots of different like avenues. So I would say some people would say, I don't have time to do this, right? I can't just have a whole chunk. I can't have a whole day to do this. Absolutely. Just take, you know, brief periods of time. You could set a timer on your phone for 44 minutes and be like, for the next 44 minutes, I'm turning off, you know, everything and I'm disconnecting. But I think when you lose, you're really gaining, but say you lose a day to do the things, right? It helps you then also be more like regimented and structured. So it's like, I have one less day to get some of the things done that I, need to get done. So now maybe you start to spend less time on things that aren't really serving you. Like, we might all go down this like Instagram loop, and you might realize like, oh, I don't have time to go down a rabbit hole on Instagram for 2 hours. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes so that I can get some of the other things done, so that I can prioritize a chunk of time in silence, right? You start to shift your priorities, I believe.
Wow. I love that answer. Yes. This is why I'm going to start it. That was actually the answer I was looking for. That's why I'm going to do it. That's brilliant. And that helps everyone, regardless of if they're in meditation or any, they might be babies to any kind of spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because that is benefit for all peoples.
Yeah. I'll tell you another practical benefit that is not like related to necessarily like spirituality or like awakening or getting more enlightened, but there's times where, you're in silence, and so you can hear more of like what your mind is saying, and you have more awareness, for good or for bad. And I might think like, ooh, I'd love to know how to make a certain recipe, right? Well, we're so used to being able to be like, okay, Google, how do you make? And then you have an immediate answer, where I don't have immediate answers on Thursdays. So I either sit with it, well, how do I think I would make this thing? Or what do I think the answer is? Or I actually have gone to my cookbooks. Do you remember when we used to use cookbooks instead of like just going? And I love that I'm like using my cookbooks again. So it saves me from going down the rabbit holes. It saves me money, because what if I'm like, oh, I was supposed to buy this thing. Well, I can't buy it on Thursday. And then maybe I just won't buy it because I realize, do I really need this thing?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And that also leads into becoming more of a master, because really you have to master yourself before you master other things.
100%.
Yeah. And so oh, I love that. Definitely. And it brings us back to that knowing that you're talking about. Like, let's say you don't even have a cookbook now because you threw them all out because you have this device. Well, if you want to make something, you're looking at what you have in your fridge. You're looking at what you have. You got to get creative. You got to
Yeah.
use boom chakra. You got to use the brain. You got to use all this stuff and go, well, I guess this is what I'm making. So just giving yourself that room, space and time to get back to actually the power of your mind. That's lovely. That's great, Miss Kristen. So do you know off the top of your head some places that you might be that are not New Earth energy market? And you can send me a list if it's conferences or whatnot. You can send them and I'll put them in the description. But if you know some off of the top of your head, you could say them, because there's viewers here all over the States, definitely.
Yes, well, I would definitely share with you, because the next lineup is going to be a trip out west for probably 3 months. So I'm going to have a bunch of different events planned sort of all over. So I will be happy to share those as the details come.
Yes. What out west, like California, or because I have stars here in California, in Nevada. Yeah, and guys, she's beautiful. Meet Kristen if you can in person. So these are big events, I would assume.
They're going to be bigger events, and they're going to also be, I'll open up some spaces for coaching. So what I really love to do, which I want to do more of, is get groups of friends together. So I love working with like either sisters or like sisters and mothers, and creating a little thing for them to connect and really, heal the womb chakra or whatever other chakras need some love or whatever they want to work on. But doing that with friends as well to really like deepen the connection between women. that is my specialty and my love to be able to customize something.
So hear me out. That, if I could be a little ding ding light for you, is I think so good for going down in the future, because um things have gotten smaller, events have gotten smaller. And I know for me, when I get a girls retreat with, there's 4 of us,
Mhm.
and we get together, so much healing either needs to happen and tries to happen, but we've always wanted to have something that the 4 of us get together and outside resources come to us
Yeah.
to heal. I mean, the best friend right now is going through a horrible divorce with the person I told her in high school, please don't marry this guy. Right? The other one is struggling to have a child because she was career oriented and now is in her 40s and struggling. The other one has 3 of them ranging from very far apart. She's all over the place. So when we get together, women, sisters, mothers, girlfriends, it usually is a lot of talking, a lot of healing, a lot of communicating, a lot of this that I always, like I said, wanted to bring in outside resources to, like, somebody else, facilitate so we can actually just receive instead of having to be a bunch of us, us doing it off of each other, trying to do our best, right?
Exactly. Yes. And then specific to your needs and dynamic, because I do love women's circles, and there's certainly plenty of women's circles. And I just think that the piece that isn't there is that it's like your people, right? It's like you're not going as deep with your people. Even like your closest friends, some of us, like we aren't going as deep as we possibly could. We don't even realize that we could go deeper. And just all the healing and the sharing and the growing that can happen when women are in that kind of environment, given that kind of space, is purely magical.
Yes. And I like women's circles too, but I do have to admit, sweetheart, they I've been to a few of them, and I don't believe they're my thing, unless it was more catered to me and women that I already know, or there's already that bond or something like that, because I don't go through the same struggles as they go through. And so if it's a stranger sitting here, do I empathize? Do I care? Yes. But I cannot, there's no relation.
Mhm.
So it's always been difficult for me being in women's circles, because it's very hard for me to relate,
Mhm.
especially if I ride a lot on masculine. Um, so I think that actually, if you're offering services like that, there's going to be that would be a very big, uh, I could see that becoming a very big popular thing, because all these people, I will tell you, after we really get out of all the mix, which we're going to here soon, girls getting together on retreats and vacations and this and that, that will be a thing. Smaller packs of
Mhm.
people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know that there's a lot of girls' weekends that happen, and all sorts of things happen on them, right? And I just feel like there's so many that are centered around like drinking or like going out or all those kinds of things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a different level of connection and engagement and healing. So just imagine if it's like the event is like you're out in the nature and you're feeding yourself nourishing foods, and it's like, your heart is open and it's all love and positivity, and you feel amazingly refreshed after the weekend on a physical level and a heart level and a soul level. It's everything, instead of being like, it was so much fun, I don't remember half of it, and now I'm hungover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's that happens too.
That happens too.
And at the end of the day, at the last day, it's like, yeah, we wanted to get a lot done here. And it didn't happen. Um, please let me know when you start doing, kind of put that together more so, because yes, I will know women that will want that.
Love it.
Definitely. Yes. I mean, I could probably call 4 of them at least right now I'd be like, yes, that's what we want. And all over the world, all over, because you do travel for work, you just said.
Yeah, so I think that my partner and I are going to head west and sort of, we'll of course have some stops planned out, and that's where I'll plan out my events. But at this point, it's like, where do we want to go? If we have my car, we can sort of go and, do whatever we want to do. So, yeah, the path is unfolding.
Wow, that's exciting. That's so exciting. See, I wonder if people just got nervous. And some people, when they hear stuff like that, it's like, whoa, isn't she worried about this? Isn't she worried about that?
No, I lived on the road for most of COVID, and we were nomadic for most of COVID.
Hey, folks. Yeah, that's lovely. Well, Miss Kristen, is there anything you would like to leave people with?
I would say prioritize listening to yourself. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it does have to become a priority. So maybe it's like you make yourself a note on the mirror when you're brushing your teeth, like, what is my body telling me today? Or what is my heart telling me? What is my soul telling me? Pick your most, either your favorite part of you or the part that you've been neglecting a little bit, and just tune in, see what answers come through.
Thank you, Miss Kristen. You all saw my face just say, I love it. I love it. So everyone, if you are in the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee area, shoot, even South Carolina, if you want to drive, we are in Ringgold, Georgia on April 29th. Doors open at 10. Kristen's going to be there doing a lot of her magical stuff and talking with people. Come meet her, New Earth Energy Market, and all of her information is below. Check her out, guys. Follow Voluptuous Life, because you want one, don't you? I mean, everybody wants a life full life. I love it, with all your senses. Oh, I love it, my dear. So you beloved stars, thank you for listening. Please share, hit the like button and share it out so people can know about Miss Kristen Joy here. She's a delight, an absolute delight. So thank you, Miss Kristen, for joining us.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too, honey. Cheers, everybody. I'll catch you later. Bye.